everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing my, officially, I'm doing my final E3 2016 video. Who won, who lost, what disappointed, what surprised me. Of course, this is my list, so you guys will have totally different opinions. There were a million different games. Consoles announced, it's really only from Microsoft. But there's a ton of stuff announced, so of course, there are going to be a lot of things that are on my list that I like, that you guys didn't like, some things on my disappointment list that will be on your like list, stuff like that. I didn't like write a full list out. This is kind of just going off the cuff. Some of the biggest things that got me. As far as who won, I would say it was Sony this year for sure. I preferred their press conference. I liked the stuff that they announced. I think they had a lot more new IPs compared to Microsoft, who had not anything really. At least brand new announcements, because Microsoft had Days Gone, Prey. If I remember right, I could be totally wrong because that was over a week ago, and I'm super late doing this. But they had Days Gone, which I personally enjoyed. I know a lot of people was like, "Oh, it's another zombie game," but for me, it was like, that actually looked really cool. Also, there's a second demo on Sony's channel. If we're somewhat in the middle, I'd highly recommend watching the demo because I thought it was going to be the same thing, but they do a lot of extra stuff. They show off different weapons. There was C4 explosive that he used on like a bunch of logs, and they blew up and then rolled down and stopped some of the zombies. So they showed off a lot more stuff in that second demo than they did in the one that was actually at the press conference. So if that one, you're kind of in the middle, like I said, or if you really liked it, either way, I would highly recommend it. If you totally hated it because of the zombie aspect, then obviously that it won't change the fact that it's a zombie game. Or yeah, they call them freakers. That disappointed, but I don't really care about that. But I would say that Sony won this conference. I enjoyed what they had. For me, because I'm super biased, I could have easily said they won solely on Resident Evil 7. And that leads me to surprises. I mean, that was a huge surprise for me. Resident Evil 7, I could not freaking believe Resident Evil 7 got announced. So that was a huge shock for me. But I loved it. Also, if you haven't had the chance, play the demo. It's actually really fun. I know they got the first person thing that was somewhat of a disappointment, but after playing the demo and everything, it was like, I just don't care. It was super fun. Also, they said that the demo won't even be a part of the game. It's just kind of show mechanics, so that had me even more excited. That was another nice little surprise, really, because it was like, there's so much change, and then they're like, don't worry, this won't be in the game. The actual game is way more Resident Evil-like compared to the demo, which is basically just walk around and get creeped out, and like they have a weapon in there, but there's no one to fight. So I was really happy to hear like it'll be way more Resident Evil than the Resident Evil demo, so that was cool. But they had a lot of stuff at their conference, which I really enjoyed. Didn't like the fact that the PSVR was going to be like $299. That kind of sucks, but I mean, I guess all the VR stuff is really expensive. It's all, I mean, it's fairly new tech, so I wasn't super surprised by that, but it was still a little disappointing to be like, oh, it's going to be that, and it's like, oh, we got like 50 games, but it's one of those things where it's like, with any VR, to be totally honest, how many games are really going to come out on this thing made for VR? Because they don't have to be first person to be VR, but it's just like, how many are really going to do that? How many of the 50 games that they're announcing are just going to be like, oh, here's just a little random whatever type game or something, little. So kind of waiting to see on that. But I would say overall, for me, Sony won. Some of the other big things that I certainly enjoyed, though, from Microsoft's conference, they announced the Xbox One S and the Project Scorpio they talked about. That both made me happy and disappointed at the same time, because I don't know now if I will ever get an Xbox One. Like, I know the Scorpio, when it comes out, is going to cost a ton of money. I mean, it's not going to come out, it's like, hey, this thing with the 6 teraflops and the 4K gaming and all this extra stuff, it'll come out at $299. Like, that's just not going to happen. It probably won't even be $399 with the crazy graphics and all that stuff. So it'll probably come out, I mean, I don't know if this will actually ever happen again, but it might come out over $600. Like, I don't think it's gonna just be like, oh, it's $599. This has like 4K and all this stuff that's brand new right now, and I just don't see that coming out under $600. Like, I just don't, and that's what disappoints me. But at the same time, knowing that all the Xbox One games are still gonna work on the Scorpio, it still makes me wonder, like, well, as much as I hate waiting on all those games that I really want that are Xbox exclusive, I'm already doing that now because I never got to play Dead Rising 3, mostly because the PC version had a ton of glitches and crap, so I was like, ooh, I'm going to stay away from that. That's really why I never got to play that. But Quantum Dream, which I know got terrible reviews, but I have to play it because it's Remedy. um, but Quantum Dream, some other stuff. I do like the Gears games. I would love to be able to get Gears 4 and get all the all the other Gears games for free, which is something they're doing if you pre-order Gears 4. There's some time frame they didn't specify, so check that out if you're interested. But as much as I would love that, it's like I'm already waiting I've already waited over a year now. I kind of don't mind waiting a couple more years. Plus, everything now is going to be like the Windows 10 plus Xbox One, even though that's all digital copy only, that was another thing that disappointed. Um, but doing that is like, well, I could get it for Windows, play it on my PC, and then eventually, when I get an Xbox, when I get the Scorpio, whatever they're gonna eventually call it, I'll just transfer it because by that time I might still not have enough money to get like a desktop. I have like a gaming PC, but it won't do like 4K. It won't look as good because it can't run even as powerful as the Xbox One just because it's kind of set like it's a PC. So I don't know. Like it just makes me wonder. Like I don't know if I'm gonna do that or not. And that's another thing everyone's been talking about the Xbox One exclusive, except it's not exclusive because it's also PC technically. So I don't know. That's not really disappointment. That's just a thing where it's like they did so much stuff where it's like that's really cool. But then it makes me wonder if I even care to buy your console now because I could buy it for PC. And also, you got this new one coming out, so I really don't care to buy this cheaper version because you got the new thing coming out, and I'll just wait 3 years for that to get to $299. It's like, oh well, I'm way behind, but that also means the games will be like $20 or something. Unless I go to GameStop and then it'll be way higher. But both exciting and a little disappointing, mostly because I don't know. It makes me feel worried for them. I don't know why, because I know people are still gonna buy it. Because not everyone's gonna be like me, like, well, I kind of just want to wait. People are gonna buy the slim. It's the 1S. It's the slim. That's what they're called. That's what it is. It does come with its own stand, which I thought was actually kind of cool. Like it is much smaller. I was watching. They did a thing. They put the old Xbox One on top of the Xbox Slim, or at least like the outer shell, and it just vanished. It's like, man, that is way smaller. Plus, it comes with its own little stand to click in. It does come with a controller. I don't know if it comes with the headset or the little cheap headset that everybody's doing now. They all do like the little one-sided headphone things. Like I don't know why they do that, but it does come with that stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. But exciting, also a little disappointing. Um, another thing that really surprised me was actually not even from conference. It was actually from just a random video I saw. Like, oh, this game's coming out. Volition is actually doing another game within the Saints Row universe, but it's not Saints Row. That really shocked me. I didn't honestly. I totally forgot about Volition because they haven't. The last Saints Row had like its DLC and stuff. And it's like, okay, I figured we'd have years before anything from them because I kind of just thought they were only doing Saints Row, to be totally honest. And then it's like, no, they have this game, Agents of Mayhem. A lot of people don't like it whatsoever. I think it looks pretty cool. It does have like 12 playable characters instead of just the 3 that we see through like the cutscenes and stuff, or the little bit of footage that's out there. But I'm actually excited for that. Like it just shocked me that they were doing anything because I was like, Volition. Seriously, Volition for me is like it's just Saints Row, and unless they want to do another, well, it was THQ ahead of time, before that. But unless they wanted to do another Red Faction game, whenever I see THQ and Volition, which sadly no more THQ, all I think of is either Saints Row or Red Faction, because I think it's either going to be the crazy Saints Row's games, or it's going to be the really crazy destructible Red Faction games. Those are the only two things I ever think of. So Volition doing anything outside of those two games, I was just like, huh, I guess they don't have to do Saints Row. But personally, I like that one. I thought it was pretty cool. I know a lot of people hate it, but we do have the Saints Row 10th anniversary coming up, and a lot of people were wondering if they were going to do something. So even though there was nothing announced at E3, I am very curious if they'll be like, hey, here's a remaster, or maybe they'll just put all the games out for free or something crazy like that. I'm sure if you go on Steam, they'll at least be on sale, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe we will see something. Maybe they're making this game. It looked like it was mostly done. Of course, that's what all demos make things look like. But it wasn't like alpha or pre-alpha or beta footage. It seemed like it was just out. Like, here's our demo. So it seems like they're fairly far along with that one. I'm very curious to see how that'll play out. But another big thing, of course, Legend of Zelda. Very cool. I'm not the biggest Legend of Zelda fan. It was very awesome though. The stuff that I saw. Every time I hear something about it, it's like everyone that was at E3 is like, yeah, we had this much time on the demo, and everybody did something random and crazy, and no one had the same experience. That's exciting to hear for a Legend of Zelda game. I still have to beat like every other Legend of Zelda game because I haven't beaten one yet. So I was like super behind on my Legend of Zelda stuff, but it looked really cool. I love the visuals for it. It's kind of that blend between like the high fidelity of Skyward Sword and then like the sort of super cell shaded version of Wind Waker. So I thought that was an interesting little blend. And they decided not to go back to the more realistic version that they did with Twilight Princess, which I would have loved to have seen that because that looked great. And like I love seeing that version of Link in Smash Brothers. I think that would have been great if the whole game looked like super realistic, but it was still, just the open world style. I'm just really curious how that would look, or if it was kind of like Hyrule Warriors. I think is even a little bit more realistic looking than this one because it doesn't have such a cell shaded kind of layer over it. But thought that looked really cool, and as amazing as that was, that leads me to my who lost thing, which I would have to say is Nintendo. As much as they showed off The Legend of Zelda, which looked great, I didn't even bother watching the whole treehouse because all they were showing, it was like 3 hours of Legend of Zelda. They showed off some Pokemon, and they didn't, even through that, they didn't show like anything super crazy except for like the four-way combat. And it's like, it looks cool. You see the trainers there now, which I thought was cool. I don't really play Pokemon that, at all anymore either. So, like I said, personal thing, but even if I loved both those things, I'd still be a little mad. Like, that's it. Like, it's literally just these two things, and they had the trailer for Paper Mario, which also, that looks very beautiful, even though I know everyone hates it, because it looks, it's going really far away from the paper thing, and now it's like a lot of cardboard and stickers and stuff, so I know people are mad about that. But looks really cool. But it was like they had those three things. They may have had something else. Like I said, I was skipping through. All I was seeing was Legend of Zelda, and I saw like a snippet of Pokemon. Like I was watching it, and unfortunately, it came on the with the whole Resident Evil 7 thing. I was like, all right, I'm watching this. Oh, trailer finished, and then I spent 2.5 hours playing the demo teaser for Resident Evil 7. And so when I went back, like, all right, I'm gonna catch up now on the Treehouse thing and do a list for that. I was like, there's nothing to do a list on. There are 3 games here, and only 2 really got shown off, and that was Pokemon and Zelda. So I was just super disappointed in them because as great as it is to have a great Legend of Zelda game coming out, and, technically 2 new Pokemon games coming out, I believe. I don't even know. They always do it in 2, so I'm just going to instantly go with it's 2 games. Even with those, it's just like, that's not enough for me. Like, even if I love those franchises, like I love Resident Evil 7. If I got 3.5 hours of that, I'd be like, that was great to see Resident Evil 7, but I would have loved to have seen literally anything else because it's E3, and you're kind of looking towards the future, and we knew the Zelda thing was coming out because of kind of what they did last year, where it's like, oh, we got to see like 10 minutes or not even 10 minutes of what they were doing with the open world and stuff. And then this was just like, here's 3.5 hours of the game. And it's like, well, that's cool to get that much of the game. But then there's nothing else. So for me, that was a huge disappointment. And I would say they lost because of that. Even though the games were good, it's like they showed 3 things. And one was a trailer, so they showed 2 games, really. And it's just like, that's really disappointing. I'm sure, like I said, there's probably some other trailers in there. So I might be, I may have been just so thrown off by looking at the little thumbnails going through YouTube, and it's just like, oh, all I'm seeing is Legend of Zelda. But that was just really disappointing when I saw that, and I was like, that really sucks. I love Nintendo. I have a Wii U, of course. You gotta have it for Smash Brothers, plus Bayonetta. If somehow there was a Bayonetta 3 coming out, I would have been like, Nintendo won. Like, it would have been like super close. But it was just like they showed 2 things, and that was just really disappointing. So that upset me. It doesn't turn me off of Nintendo, of course, because you put out a good game, I'm gonna get a good game on your console, so it doesn't matter. But that I thought was disappointing, and that's why I would personally say they lost, because they didn't really show anything. Some other things that really surprised me. I would have to say some things that I saw, and it's both surprising and disappointing at the same, just like the Microsoft stuff. Ironically, this is from the Microsoft thing, but Scalebound. I love Platinum Games. It was Bayonetta, which is like one of my favorites. But that game just does not look entertaining to me. I love Platinum, but they're going into like the RPG genre, which isn't one of my favorites. But even just looking at the game, it's not like turn-based RPG. It's kind of like the new Final Fantasy. So it's regular, just you just go through and you fight people, and you have a dragon, and yet it still looked boring. As I was watching, I watched like two separate or three separate things of gameplay for that. It was the demo that they showed during the press conference looked boring to me with the 4-player co-op. I love the 4-player co-op, which you can do all the way through the game. Somebody told me on like my yay or nay video for that one. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, and that would probably make it a bit more entertaining. Which hopefully they scale it up. But all the footage I saw was like, even the little stuff. Like my favorite thing was that you get to fight like bugs, like giant creatures that are like sub bosses, basically, or just really tough enemies, and you can like amputate certain parts of them as you fight to make them weaker, so that your dragon has an easier chance of killing them, and you have an easier chance of backing the dragon up. That was my favorite thing. The boss fights are always the worst. I said that in that video too. It's like boss fights are the worst thing ever to show off on demos to me, because it's like it's just a sponge fest. Like that's it. You just hit the boss. They don't, they kind of react when they get to the next stage of their boss fight. But other than that, it's like, man, boss fights, unless you have like a specific game, whenever it's like that, it's just that giant boss you just keep hitting. That's always the worst thing to show. Like some games can do that if there's, like I said, a specific mechanic. Like there's you game Near 2, it was the same sort of thing, but at least it looked cooler. And that's also Platinum Games is at least developing that one. They're doing, that's like their fast-paced action game, and then their other game, Scalebound, which is like that's all them, is like the slower pace because they're going into the RPG thing. So it's like kind of disappointed by that. I love Platinum so much. It's just like I'm really worried that I'm not gonna like that game. I'm worried that no one will, because it just looks slow paced. Like even for an RPG, when it's that type of action RPG, it's just, I was like, that just looks super slow paced. And I'm so worried about it because none of the footage I saw, outside of some of the dragon stuff, it's like that. I don't know if this is gonna make it. It's too open and there's not enough enemies. I'm looking forward to the story. I feel like the story might get me because I'm a story guy. I think they might get it on that because their stories are always really crazy, but entertaining to go through and enjoyable. So that might get me. But that was like a bit of it. I was surprised how disappointed I was in that, because when I first saw the trailer last year, I was like, that's gonna be sweet. And then I saw gameplay and I was like, that's not as sweet as the first trailer I saw, which was like 30 seconds or something. It was probably like a minute. But I don't know, that just kind of disappointed me. Um, some other stuff that really surprised me was another new IP. It's actually Steep from Ubisoft. I was surprised how much I enjoyed that. I don't like sports like at all, but that just got me. I was like, that looks really cool. Maybe I'm just a sucker for snowboarding games. Those are like the only sports games I buy, except for like the silly sports games like NBA Jam and stuff, which I haven't even bought any of those games. I just have the old one on Super Nintendo, so I like it. But I don't know, that one really shocked me. Probably the biggest surprise outside of Resident Evil 7, God of War, of course, is another huge surprise, which I'm excited for that. I know some people are a little odded out by the different camera angle and stuff. I can't wait to see what they do with that. I'm excited for it. First one, I'm even interested in playing, and they've had like 4 come out since God of War 3. I didn't care about any of those. I was like, those all look cool. And when I got a PS3, they weren't even remotely on my mind. Like, I just never cared. But this one, I was like, I want to get this, because the story takes place after 3. So I'm really, sometimes the story is seriously it. And they've had a whole collection. 5 games, all 5 games. And I was just like, I don't even care that much. I just didn't. But looking forward to God of War 3. But under Resident Evil 7, I think my biggest surprise is Watch Dogs 2. Like, crap, this might not be my last video. I never did one for that, a yay or nay thing for that. Crap, I totally forgot about Watch Dogs. But Watch Dogs 2 really surprised me. Never played the first one. Clearly no need to play the first one. But this one, the trailer when they came out before E3, I was like, this looks fun. It was almost like, this game is like, it's the video game version of the second Ninja Turtles movie. I never cared to even see the first one because it was like, I love Ninja Turtles. Didn't care to see that first movie. Then that trailer came out for the second. I was like, uh-oh, this looks good. I'm a little worried about that. And it's gotten fairly good reviews for that movie. And I feel like Watch Dogs 2 is the same thing. Like, the first one was really crappy. Nobody really liked it. And then this trailer comes out and I'm like, it looks pretty sweet. They got actual parkour. I love parkour. I'm not surprised that at some point Ubisoft is just going to be like, let's just make everything a parkour game. Or just, no matter the story, it'll be parkour in it somewhere. Because that's what they do now. But it's like, the parkour looks sweet. The action looks sweet. The hacking and stuff is enhanced, so they got more stuff. The demo they did with that one mission was very cool, and all the little traps he set up, and he's scoping out the area, he sets the car off, all this other stuff. It looked really good, so that was probably my biggest surprise. There are a couple other little things, like nothing I feel like is really worth mentioning, but those are kind of my big things that kind of come to mind. Kojima, huge surprise there. Although I saw him do an interview, so I was kind of like, he's probably going to do something. Crash was a big surprise as well. The Skylanders footage has me excited to see what the remasters are going to look like, because I like what Crash looked like in the Skylanders game, so that has me excited. But really enjoyed E3 this year a lot. These are definitely the most amount of videos I've ever done for E3. I normally just do like these here, the press conferences, and that's it. I've done so much more for this year. I never expected to do that, but I had a great time with it. It was really fun. I felt like I was actually doing some sort of reporter job. I felt good about that. But I had a lot of fun with it. This is going to cut off probably in the middle of me talking, but I would love to know your favorite things, least favorite things from this year's conference. Who won, who lost, biggest surprises, biggest disappointments. It could even be from a franchise you love, and it's something they changed. Because like I said, the God of War stuff, some people don't like that. It's kind of like The Last of Us, just with this style and stuff. Some people are really mad about Resident Evil 7 because of the first person thing, and I totally get that. As with that being my favorite franchise, I completely understand that. But after getting my hands on that demo for 2.5 hours, it's only like a 15-minute demo too. But I was fine. There's secrets in it, but I'm okay with that. There was a lot of fun with this. Now I feel like I do have to do a Watch Dogs 2 video, which I'll probably do tomorrow because it's like 2:30 or 2:40 in the morning. Sorry about that. It's 2:53 in the morning, so probably do that tomorrow. But thank you guys for checking this out. Like I said, I want to know who won to you, who lost to you, who disappointed, who just surprised you, everything you guys thought about this year's E3. And of course, thank you guys for watching.